Good evening and welcome back to the show. We're so glad to have you back with us. It is so important that you're here this evening. And the reason for that is we have an exciting guest for you. Somebody who's going to give you an awful lot of information. So as I tell you every show, be sure to have something to write down numbers, contact information, and the person that you're going to be calling because you're going to have questions. There's so much information that's going to be given out, and I don't want you to miss not one tiny bit of it. So today I have a special guest, Kathy McKenna. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, Tom.
I am so glad to have you here.
I'm excited to be here to tell you about our program.
Okay, now what is her program? That's the biggie. And the biggie is the fact that she's the executive director of CASA. Now, I spoke some Spanish every now and then, and CASA means house. So what does it mean here? So CASA, what is CASA?
CASA is short for Court-Appointed Special Advocates.
So you're saying that somebody is appointed by the court to be a special advocate?
That's exactly correct. So what our main purpose is we train volunteers to be advocates for foster children in the court system.
Well, why can't their parents do that?
Well, unfortunately, there are times where children are removed from their homes, and it's due to abuse and neglect in the home. And so these children a lot of times are removed in the middle of the night. It could be a domestic violence, it could be a drug raid, and these children are stuck in the back of the police car and they wait until the DCFS arrives, the Department of Child and Family Services, to take them to a stranger's house because they cannot be at home.
Oh, wow.
And so these children, once they're removed, it goes before a judge and it's decided, was it a right thing to do to remove those children? And if it was, that family will be on usually about a 1-year trajectory to change whatever is happening in the home that caused the children to be removed.
So they have to work on fixing that problem.
Exactly, or problems.
Okay.
It could be domestic violence and they need anger management, or parenting classes, or there's various reasons that they are removed. Maybe drug abuse, alcohol abuse, to be able to treat that. And so these children in the meantime are not at home to allow those parents to correct that activity, but you can imagine to be a young child and you may have siblings, and sometimes they're not even able to put those siblings in the same home because they don't have enough room.
That makes it even worse.
It does make it worse. And so what we do as advocates is we step in and become that child's friend. We are the face to that child that he knows that they're safe, they're secure, and we will be their voice in court. So there's a lot of times children, and especially older ones, want to speak up and say what their circumstance is, or say what they want or need. And so we are that voice.
What age are the children when you
Unfortunately, some are from birth.
Okay.
Usually that is due to being drug addicted at birth, to 18. And at 18, they will age out of the system. But the court, depending on where they are, will actually help them after the ages of 18 now.
Okay, now, because you mentioned that, and this is such a crucial point, I want everybody to understand that we're talking about children, so this is very important. When did this start here?
So it started here in about 2010. There was a group of people that wanted to get this started. One of them was the DA at that time. And they got...
You say DA, you're talking district attorney.
District attorney, yes, sorry. And they got the help of a young lady by the name of Willie Bear.
Willie Bear.
And Willie Bear has done numerous nonprofits in her vast career. And she actually was the one that got CASA off the ground and running, even though people said, well, it's been tried and never happened. If anybody knows Willie, Willie doesn't give up easily.
and we have to say, if you don't know who Willie Bear is, you're missing a treat. A wonderful woman.
She is.
And obviously, what was just mentioned by Kathy is the fact that she's truly outstanding. And to get this program started was fantastic.
It was, because it had been tried before and it did not succeed.
Okay.
And a lot of it is due to how it's funded. A lot of it is due to getting volunteers.
Okay.
And she is a dynamic fundraiser, and people absolutely, it's hard to tell her no when she asks, can you help?
I've received several requests from Willie, so I agree with you.
You know right where I am.
I don't believe I've ever said no to Willie.
Exactly, exactly. So those were big shoes for me to fill.
Oh, but you're doing a great job in just bringing it here to the public to make sure that they know exactly what's going on.
Exactly. Because the problem is we have more foster children than we do volunteers.
Okay.
And that's the sad state of affairs. At any one time, there's usually 100 to 110 children in the foster care system here in Nye and Esmeralda counties.
All under the court?
Yes, the
Okay.
Fifth Judicial Court has both Nye and Esmeralda.
Okay.
I will tell you that there's usually only, you can count them on one hand, how many set of siblings are actually in the Esmeralda
Okay.
County, but most are actually in Nye County,
County.
unfortunately.
Okay. And Nye is the third largest county in the country, so.
It is. So it's, and you know, the vastness between Tonopah and Pahrump, we do serve both areas, both in Tonopah and Pahrump.
Okay. Now I have the big question. You said earlier that you're looking for volunteers.
Yes,
Now volunteers mean just that, volunteers.
it does.
And so you're trying to get people to volunteer to take care of children and be their friends.
Yes.
Now, how much time do these volunteers have to give of their time? Taking care of a child can be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Exactly, but we're not foster parents.
Ah.
So that's the
okay.
difference. So what we do is those children are in a foster home.
Okay.
And so what our volunteers, we ask our volunteers to do is at least see that child once a month
Okay.
for at least an hour.
Oh, that's easy.
It is easy. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't have time. If you stop and think about the situation that that child is in, it's really hard to convince yourself that you don't have 1 hour that you can give up, maybe a TV show or, you know, working outside in the yard. You aren't allowed to bring the children to your home. You can take them out. You can take them out to Burger King or McDonald's. You can take them to the park. But you need to develop that rapport so that child feels safe, because there's times where they'll have to move foster homes. Some of them within a year can move 4 or 5 times, even more. And so,
do the foster parents have any say in when you come by or anything else?
what you do is you actually give the foster family a call and say, hey, I'd like to come by. This is when I'd like to come by. Does that work?
Okay.
And they'll tell you, oh, yes or no, or, oh, that's dinner time. Could you come a little bit before or a little after?
Okay.
But probably one of the big things I hear is not only with time is, I'm too old for that, or I don't have any kids, or there's millions of excuses you can come up with, but none of those mean anything. The biggest commitment is it takes about 40 hours of training, and we have guest speakers come in from...
Now, let's go back to the training.
Okay.
You're going to train the volunteers, and it takes 40 hours of training before they can actually start seeing a child.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We do background checks to make sure that there's no child abuse in their history. We do fingerprints, so they want to make sure that these children will be safe.
Yes.
And then the training takes roughly 40 hours. It happens in the evening. We're getting ready to have training classes, but we have them in both the spring and the fall.
Okay.
And it lasts for about 6 to 7 weeks. And once you're trained, it doesn't mean we dump you in and go, there you go. You know, it's kind of like, well, I taught you how to swim. Can you swim in the ocean? We have mentors, what we call peer coordinators that work with you to help you work through the system, because you actually will go to court and you'll tell the judge what you feel a child may or may not need. For instance, he may need therapy or medical treatment, doctor's visits, and even down to therapy. And so you are that child's voice. And that judge looks to you to fact find, to make sure he has the right information to be able to make the right decision about these children.
So as a CASA, as an advocate for the children, you're looking at the home where they are with the foster parents. You're looking at the school where they are with the teachers. You're looking at maybe their friends that they socialize with.
Absolutely, as well as medical professionals.
Okay.
You get to talk to their therapist about any concerns or needs that the child have or that maybe you have for that child.
Okay.
You are the eyes and the ears for that child.
That is fantastic. With everything you've given, I think it's so important they understand that after you're trained and after you're speaking for that child, the judge is looking to you.
Exactly.
I do want to say there's one person that was a CASA volunteer, and he talked to me. Since then, he's passed away. That's Don Russ.
Oh, yes.
And Don was
fabulous.
Well, this meant so much to him. And I also want to talk about the graduation and what it means to the volunteers.
Oh, it's a huge thing to be able to go in court and the judge actually swears you in, because you are actually a court-appointed advocate. So you are sworn in by the judge. And court for foster children, which is called 432B court, is a closed court. So to keep the children safe and the information confidential, it's actually closed. So it's one of those that you won't see people floating in and out.
Oh, this is something I almost want to jump up and say I want to be a CASA volunteer right now.
We can make that happen.
I know, with my schedule, I probably couldn't do it, but I want to encourage all of you that are watching this program to think very seriously about it. And you may know someone else that wants to be a CASA volunteer.
Absolutely.
So if you do, don't forget, you need to call Kathy and let her know, look, I'm interested in this program.
Absolutely.
What do I need to do?
And we can give you more information. I mean, it's kind of hard to do it in a half-hour segment, but we definitely can give you more.
Well, come back and join us for the next session. We'll give you a lot more information. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. I have Kathy McKenna. She's with the CASA program, Court-Appointed Special Advocates, taking care of children.
Yes.
This is so important. And with everything we've mentioned so far, again, we want to make sure that you take down information. If you're interested at all in becoming a CASA volunteer, be sure to contact Kathy and let her know, look, I'm really interested in this program, or I know someone that would be perfect for this program. How old do you have to be a volunteer?
You have to be 21.
21.
Yep.
Okay. So anybody out there that's 21 or above.
Or above.
Okay.
We have even couples. So I'll have a couple that'll come in and say, can we work a case together?
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've got a young couple of about, they're not quite 90 yet, that are that are absolutely fabulous with the children. Fabulous. And they've been at CASA since day one.
Oh, beautiful.
Which is awesome.
Okay. So age doesn't matter. If you're 21 or above,
right,
then you can become a CASA volunteer. And the things that we mentioned in the first segment, where we talked about the fact that you're speaking for that child to the judge, and the judge is looking to you to provide that information that they need to make sure for that child's safety and welfare.
To make an informed decision of, do we return that child to that home?
Okay.
Or do we look for other options such as adoption and terminate the parental rights? Because sometimes, unfortunately, parents are not in a situation where they can care for their child.
Okay.
A lot of times you'll find that grandparents may step up, or an aunt or an uncle, or even an older brother or sister.
Wow.
But if not, those children will be put up for adoption. And that way they will absolutely be able to have a normal life when these children grow up.
I think just being a CASA volunteer, it means so much. not only to the child, not only to the court system, but our entire community.
It does, and I will tell you, it means a lot to yourself.
Okay.
I became an advocate before I took this position. So I actually became a CASA, and the satisfaction and the gratification you get from being able to help these children who are really in a very bad spot at such a young stage in their life.
Yes.
And I look at these children, you know, some have been given up by parents, some taken away because of, you know, alcohol or drug abuse. And all I can think about is, what is that child going to be like when they grow up?
Oh, gee.
And without somebody involved in their life that cares about them, that speaks up for them, I'm concerned about what their future holds. And today, the biggest problem, we have about 65 children being served. Unfortunately, I have about 35 children who are not being served. And that's where the volunteers come in.
Okay. We need all the children served.
We do. My goal is to, by the end of the year, to have all of our children, our sets of siblings, will have a CASA. And so yes, if there's 3 siblings in a home, you know, you'll be the CASA for all 3 siblings normally.
Okay.
Sometimes we have CASAs that'll share if we have a big family, that, and especially if they're separate in different homes.
Okay.
But usually it's one CASA for each set of siblings. And it's so rewarding.
I can just imagine, like you said, the satisfaction you get in just being able to help the child.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's truly a lifelong relationship. They don't get to 18 or they don't get adopted and then they just fall off the face of the earth. We have children who have been adopted and the adoptive parents still send pictures to our CASA, like if they move to Chicago or back east, and they'll send pictures of the children to say, here's, you know, the daughter or the son, and said they're doing great, and we get
that is fantastic.
Updates, and it's fabulous.
Well, what about some of the changes in the laws and some of the other things that come up?
So right now we've got children who have been in foster care for 3-4+ years.
Okay.
That's too long in a child's life. I don't think anyone, to live in a foster home for that amount of time, it's not fair to the child.
Okay.
So there's a federal law, the Family First Prevention Act, where they're looking at cutting that down to a year. And that is another place where CASAs truly help, because we help facilitate the timeliness of getting that child back home.
So after 1 year, if the law changes, after 1 year, what do you do?
If, you know, sometimes parents need longer. Sometimes they have trouble locating family. So there is times where it will take longer, but we're trying to have a national goal of let's get these kids either back in the home or look towards another permanent solution by a year, because that's a long time in a child's life.
So when you talk about foster care, you're talking about the temporary, but you want something permanent.
Absolutely. Foster parents are truly that. They're there to help the child in need, normally for a specified period of time. And truthfully, Tom, there are lots of children here who we struggle to place in a foster home because we don't have enough in our community. There's a lot of times we have to take our children to Las Vegas.
Oh, gee.
And it's tough enough for a child to imagine leaving the home, but can you imagine leaving your school and your friends and the community in which you know, especially going from Pahrump to Las Vegas? I'm sorry, I would much rather be in Pahrump.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so I really call out too that if anybody is interested in even wanting to be a foster family and to help these children during that transition period of mom and dad, you know, getting things better to a permanent solution, please call DCFS. Michael Kaysen is the head there, and he would be more than happy to talk to anyone.
Can they call you to get that information?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Call me, and I will definitely put him in the right direction.
Anytime you have any questions at anything about CASA, and like she said, being a foster parent, anything that deals with the helping children,
yes,
call her and she'll put you in the right direction.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. That works. Okay, what else do we have that when you look at the CASA program overall that you'd like to emphasize to our audience?
Well, one of the things is we are not funded by the county. We are actually funded by grant writing, which of course is my responsibility to actually write grants,
Okay.
as well as events. So we have a Crab Fest event that we do in the spring, and we do a luau that we do, of course, in September, right before it gets
Okay.
cold. And the monies that are raised from that actually go towards supporting CASA and all of our programs. And then we also have
So these are fundraisers.
these are
that you do.
fundraisers,
Okay.
absolutely. And we usually have a live auction, we'll have a silent auction, and raffles and prizes, and everybody has a very good time. But at the end, what I want everyone to take away is you've helped keep our doors open so that we can help another child.
So even if you can't come to the Crab Fest or some of the other things that you have, donations help.
Donations always help. We have some people that give us a monthly donation every month. We have some people that, instead of Christmas presents, donate money and say, we decided not to have Christmas presents this year, and we're going to donate what we would have spent to you. Or we'll just have a random donation here or there. Somebody hears about us, understands our need. You can actually look at us on Facebook, or you can go on our website. Either place allows you to donate from there.
And we've had all that information on the screen.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes, yes. In case we haven't, our website is www.ptcasanv.org.
Okay, PT stands for what?
Pioneer Territory.
Outstanding.
Pioneer Territory CASA.
Okay.
But everybody calls us CASA for short. They just know who we are.
And it's important that they know who you are.
Absolutely, absolutely. And realize that the volunteers that volunteer here, they're helping our community children, and it's our community that is stepping to the plate that's actually helping those children.
That is so crucial. When I look at some of the CASA volunteers that I've known over the years, and like Don Russ, and they talk about it with such passion, and some of the things that they're accomplishing without going into details for any particular child,
Right, 'cause you can't.
you want to keep that confidential.
Absolutely.
But overall, and talking about the impact that a CASA volunteer has on that kid's, like you said, their life, their future.
It is. And realize we, CASAs, we have a lot of partnerships in the community. We work very closely with DCFS, the Division of Child and Family Services, because of course they're the ones that are that have removed the child from home and that's trying to help the family. We work very closely with the DA's office because the DAs are actually the ones that prosecute and also help the parents as defense. We work closely with the judges because the judges make the decision. We're very active and involved in the community to help change the lives of these children, and we as a unit, as a team, are working together to make that happen.
This is just fantastic, and I'm just so happy that you're able to come and be on the show today. I know that people are interested in helping, and they want as much information as they can get.
Absolutely.
And you have provided so much this evening. I really appreciate it.
Well, the most important thing, as I said, is realize it doesn't take a lot of time.
Okay.
You will interact probably more in the beginning, just to learn the child's teacher and maybe a therapist and talking to the foster family to see how the child is. But it's not like it's a burden. Oh my gosh, I've got to go see that child. It's one of those, it's, oh my gosh, I get to go see my kids and see how they're doing.
Okay.
Huge difference. And as I said, the training, of course, training always takes time.
Yes.
But after training, it's literally a couple hours a month. You go to court usually once a quarter just to tell the judge how things are going with your child. And it's a very informal, if anybody has gone in front of Judge Lane, he's an easygoing guy, so it's not painful.
Well, going to court is always, everybody gets nervous. But here you're doing something for a child.
Absolutely.
And the judge is going to be asking you questions, and you'll be able to provide those answers.
Absolutely. And what you do is you're able to change a child's story. That is the national tagline right now is change a child's story. And that is the important part that we got to remember.
Okay. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and I want you to look at this. Be sure to contact Kathy if you have any questions at all.
Thank you,
and
Tom.
stay by for our next sessions, and thank you. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. Now I have a new guest for the next two sessions, and this is Tanya Dixon. And we're going to learn a lot about Tanya as we go on. And this is really a repeat from a show that we had some time ago. I've had several people stop me around the community and say, well, I saw this thing about service dogs, and what about this or what about that? So I let them know that we're going to have to repeat the show because Tanya had so much information and she's got so much today. But I just want to welcome her back to the show. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And of course, I don't know how much time we have left because I don't see a timer, but it'll work. But we're going to be talking about the service dogs. And so yeah, we're going to keep talking about the service dogs. And Tanya is the sassy trainer. She trains service dogs. And last time you were here, do you remember some of the things that we covered?
Yes, we covered some aspects of training, breeds, some of the legal issues and legal challenges that come up.
And we're going to be covering a lot of that. So because we want to recover a lot of the information or go over the same information we went over before, plus any updated information. And that's what we're going to be doing. In addition to that, Tanya brought some of her students along with her, and we have pictures of them. We couldn't really get them up here because then you'd be listening to the dog, and we didn't want you really doing that because we had so much that we wanted to cover, and we didn't want to take any time other than showing you these are the students that she have. Now the student is the dog and the person tied together to make that personally trained service dog.
Yes.
Okay. Service dogs. When people stop me, they ask, when they talk about the show that we had before, and they know that we're coming on again, service dogs. How do you train service dogs? How do you know it's a service dog? And what rights do people have, the service dog owner, as well as the businesses that they frequent? Okay,
well, I'll try to be as brief and as encompassing as possible.
Okay.
Let's start at the beginning. How old does a dog have to be, or a puppy have to be, to start service dog training? We start service dog training really pre-birth, choosing a good mother and father to produce a good puppy.
Okay.
So, and the way that the mother is treated during her pregnancy is even important for the puppy that will, of course, come from that. So you don't want the mother to be in any traumatic things if possible. And this is a perfect world, scenario.
Okay.
All right, so of course, as soon as the puppies are born, they're immediately handled. There's different training aspects of that, motions that we put them through to get their brain working early and getting their synaptic pathways going and growing. Okay. But coming to an actual class with your puppy, you can start as early as 8 weeks. And
wow, I didn't think it was that early.
Yes, so the sooner the better.
Okay.
Yes, but people call me all the time. My dog is 2 or 3 years old. My dog is 8. My philosophy is if the dog is still alive, we can start training and see where we go.
Okay.
So the dog will tell me at whatever point, yes, I'm interested in being a service dog, no, I'm not. And I know that sounds interesting, but the service dog has to be able to cope with the environment. They have to be able to move around with their partner wherever their partner goes. So they are needing to have the ability to just deal with the normal stress of life out
Okay.
in the public. So that's important to try to expose them to as early as possible. But again, whatever age you start is the age you start. So what breed doesn't really matter. Some breeds are more disposed to wanting to be your partner and wanting to help you. So, you know, you look at the labs and the sporting dogs, basically, the retrievers, the setters, and that sort of thing. They tend to make really good, attentive partners. But you saw in some of the pictures, we only have one dog. It's a golden doodle in the photos that you saw. That is in that realm of sporting dogs. One was a Boston Terrier. She's a non-sporting dog, I believe. And one was a little terrier mix. So, you know, and a Chihuahua, actually. So people say it's too tiny to do anything, but that's not true. So really any breed, any age, you just have to be willing and they have to be willing. So that's really the requirements for a service dog.
Now, I know you do a lot of training for veterans as well as non-veterans. And I have to ask the question because I know several people have wondered, how do you know so much about veterans?
Well, as it turns out, I happen to be a veteran.
You happen to be a veteran of what branch of service?
I'm an Army veteran.
Okay. So you served in the Army.
I was Desert Shield, Desert Storm era.
Okay. So we have a veteran that's out to help veterans as well as others that are non-veterans. But so how did you get into the service dog business? I know we talked about this during our previous show, but for those that don't know, how did you get into that business?
Well, it started when I got out of service back in the early 90s. I had disabilities or challenges when I got out of service. And at the time, I was a member of the DAV, still am. That's the Disabled American Veterans. And they said, while you're going to school, because when I got out of service, I decided to go back and finish my education. We'll help you with whatever adaptive equipment. I decided a service dog was the way that I wanted to go. They helped me to get a dog. The dog subsequently helped me to graduate from college. So my first degree is thanks to my service dog, Dave. And so I thought, wow, if I could ever give back, I want to train service dogs for veterans. And now, of course, I train service dogs and dogs for veterans as well as non-veterans. So that was my kind of humble beginnings in how I got started. And recently, last five years, I've been working with service dogs. I went back to school to the Bergen University of Canine Studies, and that's in California, and they are still operating. So if you're interested in learning more, Bergen, I believe it's Bergen College now, but they have some very interesting courses and degrees for service work or work in the dog industry. So I have a degree in service, now I can't think of it, service dog education.
Okay.
And I had quite extensive training, hands-on training while I was there with service dogs. I worked with a number of dogs that were service dogs in training, puppies, mothers-to-be, fathers-to-be, and students, of course, and faculty who all had a great interest in the service dog industry. So, and then I came back to Pahrump and hung out my shingle as the sassy trainer.
As the sassy trainer, have you been any place besides Pahrump?
Yes. So right after I graduated from the school, Bergen, I went to, it's Africa, but I was trying to think of the country, which eludes me at the moment. But
on the continent of Africa.
It's in South Africa, and I'll think of it, I'm sure. Okay. I spent 8 weeks there, and
what were you doing there?
Training dog trainers and dogs to be service dog trainers and service dogs. Okay. I did some additional work with guards that have dogs, and they were also partnerships as well. So helped them work on developing a better partnership.
Well, one of the things in the brief conversation I had with some of your students, they talked about how important you are not only to their lives, but to the life of their dogs. And I don't expect you to say anything on that except the fact that they think the world of you. So, and obviously so does the county, because the county has set aside some veteran funds to help cover the dogs for veterans.
Yes.
So the NYE County is very supportive of this program, and we're very thankful to our commissioners for allowing that. But for Tina, for her to come out and provide this, it's something that we just didn't have. Now, there are a lot of people out there that train dogs. Don't want to take anything away from them. But here's someone that's in our community, understanding exactly what's needed and willing to come out and train our service dogs for veterans as well as non-veterans, and I want to emphasize that. But we really want to cover the one for veterans because that's the one that the county is supporting.
So that training is no cost to veterans. You basically just need to come and apply. And my number is 513-417-1334. Give me a call and I can give you further information about that. We have classes here in Pahrump every week, 2 and 3 times a week. You get homework and various assignments, tests.
Okay.
So it's a very robust program, but generally it's very tailored to the individual.
And how long does it take you to train a dog?
So that varies by dog and by team. So it depends on what the age of the dog is when we start. It depends on what the dog is being trained for. So that can range from 6 months to 18 months.
Okay, there's so many different things that you train the dogs to do, so many disabilities. And we're going to be talking about that in the next session because we want to get into that. So it's so important that if you have a dog and you want to train that dog to be a service dog, what steps do you need to go through? Tina can answer those questions, so be sure to give her a call and say, look, I'm interested, or I know someone that might be interested, or I know a veteran that needs a service dog. And you're looking at all these things you don't have answers for. Just give Tina a call and let her guide you in the right direction, because she can do that. The biggest thing is we want you to be aware that it's available, and we want you to come back and join us in the next session as you learn more about service dogs. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. This is our final session, and I always hate that part, but we have so much information we want to make sure that you get. In the last session, we covered a lot about service dogs and service dog training. Tina took you through some of the steps and what you can do if you're interested in having a service dog. And we do say that PTSD personally trained service dogs, and they're personally trained for a particular thing. She's going to get into all of that. And we want to talk also about you business owners that are looking at, oh, somebody comes in with a service dog, they've got the vest on, and they say, this is my service dog, and they're misbehaving. What do you do? What are your options? She's going to get into that as well. There's so many things that cover a lot of things, and I know you're still going to have questions after we're done. So with those questions, be sure to give her a call and ask those questions. Since we don't have a live call-in talk show right now where we could do that, you need to give her a call. Her number appears on the screens several times. Be sure to write it down, give her a call, and ask her those questions. And you'll answer those questions.
I will answer those questions.
That sounds good.
To the best of my ability.
Okay, now you said earlier that you had been in a place in Africa. And what was that country in Africa?
It's Malawi.
Malawi, Africa.
Malawi.
And that's where you were, and you trained trainers primarily, and guards.
I trained trainers and guards, and then actually I went to Zimbabwe for a couple of weeks and did some more training.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So outside of the country and in the country, you've done a lot. But here in Pahrump, we speak very highly of you, and we're very pleased with everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I gave a prelude to it on some of the things that people able to tell service dogs and what they're all about. And what about businesses? Let's go into that a little bit.
Okay. So what I'd like to start with is that as a business owner, let's not so much deal with whether the dog is a service dog or not, what training it's had or any of that, what service it's providing to its handler. So let's kind of push that aside for a minute and let's just look at behavior. So behavior is more the determining factor about whether or not you can ask a person with their dog to leave. So really it doesn't matter if the dog is a pet or a therapy dog or an emotional support dog or a service dog. If they're behaving badly, then you can ask them to leave. And by badly, I mean if they're barking or if they're nipping or biting at people, if they're allowed to just walk around and soil, pee on things or, leave anything behind. That's inappropriate. And if it's a natural occurrence, the person should have exercised their dog before they brought their dog into the establishment. So, if it was, kind of the diarrhea, anything like that that's uncontrolled, that you would, just as if a person walked in and got sick, you don't necessarily kick them out. So I'm talking.
If there's an emergency, the person should still clean up after their dog.
Oh, sure, yes. Okay. In any case, a person who is with a dog should carry a kit, a cleanup kit that they can clean up behind their dog in any case, whether it be an intentional, I'm exercising my dog, leave no poop behind is our philosophy.
I had not heard that, but okay.
So that comes from the military.
I understand.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but you can ask them to leave if their behavior is inappropriate, regardless of any other status.
Okay. Now, service dogs, you have the idea, PTSD, personally trained service dogs. Now, they're personally trained for what?
Well, that depends on what the person needs. So
Okay.
That's why we call it personally trained for two reasons. One, usually the person who needs the dog or family member is training the dog through this process with my help. And then what we're training them for, the two things that are steady would be public access. So we take a lot of time to take the team out into public to acclimate the dog and the team to just being in public. How do you deal with weather? How do you deal with noise? How do you deal with people? Okay. Etc. And the other aspect is obedience. So the dog should have a certain level of obedience, should listen and be responsive to their handler. And then after that, the individualized part of that is, are you diabetic? Do you need a dog to alert you that your sugar is off? Are you unsteady and you need a dog to prevent falls or help you up if you fall? Do you have seizures or I'm trying to think, if you have PTSD, not the personally trained service dog PTSD, but the post-traumatic stress PTSD. Do you have other issues that we can use a dog to mitigate those issues so that your life is a better life for you?
And they do that, you do that also for hearing?
Yes, hearing and seeing and they're just, you name a challenge and we try to.
And that's why you call them personally trained?
Yes, because it just depends on what you need a dog for.
Okay. How many students do you have in your classes that you're training right now? I know you mentioned earlier about the fact that you have classes throughout the week and you also give them homework and things like that. But how many days a week if somebody wanted to go through one of the classes?
So we have 3 phases of the classes. One is a lecture phase, and that we're actually working on putting that on video so that people can do it kind of at their own pace.
Okay.
Usually I like people to come for 2 weeks straight, Monday through Friday, and get the lecture series. It's 13 lectures, and then there's a written test. Then there's the training phase where you're training the dog going out in public and this and that. You'll see dogs in yellow vests, and then you'll know those are the sassy trainer, dogs in training, dogs and puppies.
Okay.
And then the final stage is proofing whatever we've taught them to do. So there'll be some tests where we'll have to go out into public and perform and this and that, performing in home and in other places to ensure that the dog is steady and ready to graduate.
And they wear the yellow vest throughout this training.
Yes.
Okay, so when you see a yellow vest, you know that's a service dog in training.
Yes.
Okay.
So be kind. Don't approach. Don't expect perfection. They're not there yet, but they are in progress. So, you know, like I said, this takes 6 to 18 months. So you'll see them around town.
So don't go and pet a service dog.
Correct.
Because they have a job that they're trying to do for their owner.
Yes. So imagine that somebody's doing CPR. You don't want to go and interrupt them because they're doing their job.
Okay.
It's kind of important. Same thing. The dog is doing their job. It's kind of important. We've put a lot of time, money, effort into creating this partnership. It doesn't mean that you can't speak to the person, but just be mindful that the dog is working.
And while they're working, they wear the vest. When they take the vest off, do they realize they're no longer working, or are they on 24 hours?
No. I mean, imagine if you had to work 24 hours a day.
Yes.
7 days a week.
It's rough.
365.
It's rough.
You can do it though.
Yeah?
But no.
We don't want to.
At some point, you'd have to sleep.
Yes.
And eat, you know, and maybe rest. I'm just saying. So we expect the same from our partners. We don't want to overwork our partners. So if they're not in vest, they are off duty. So we do not want them to work 24/7.
Okay, very good. Okay, now we have the dogs, we have the training, we let the business owners know that they do have the right to ask people to take their dogs out of their business.
Yes.
If they're misbehaving. Mm-hmm. And you described exactly what that is. For all of those other people that, okay, now you have, the dogs are no longer in training, they've graduated, mm-hmm. They've been certified by you mm-hmm. as a service dog.
Yes.
What color vest would they have on that?
Purple.
Purple vest. Like your shirt.
Like my shirt.
Okay. And when they have those purple vests on, they are fully trained service dogs.
Yes.
Okay. But again, the same rules apply. Do not pet service dogs.
Correct.
Because they're working.
You're interfering with a partnership where the dog is actually there for the person that they're with. If you need to ask the person who has the dog a question or engage them in conversation, fantastic, go for it. It doesn't mean that you can't approach them at all. It just means that you shouldn't approach them with the idea of petting their dog.
Okay. Very good. Look, we've learned a lot, and Tina is here to answer questions. Tina, is there anything else that we probably should have covered that we haven't covered yet? I don't want to run out of time and not get to some of those areas.
Well, I wanted to briefly give a definition of dogs. So a pet is a pet. They're at home. They can be well behaved or not. You love them. They're sort of your family. And you know how it is with family. You got to keep them because, you know, they're family. An emotional support dog is a dog that does not actually have any legal rights according to the federal regulations. Those dogs are designed for the support emotionally of the person that they're with, and that could be at home or out in public, and the business owner, et cetera, have the discretion to allow access with that dog. A therapy dog is a dog that's been trained to go into hospitals and retirement homes and schools and things like that in order to engage with more or less the public. So those are dogs that, even though they are in a vest, their intention is to be intermingling with the public.
Okay.
And then, of course, the service dog, which is a partnership for the person with the challenges or disabilities, so that that dog can make their life a better life. And that dog does have access and rights under the federal American with Disabilities Act. So just wanted to kind of give a quick definition of the types of dogs that are out there.
I love that, and just the fact that now you know what you can do with your dog, and the fact that there are different dogs. When we talk about a trained service dog versus a pet, and many people, they want to get a vest and put on their pet and say, this is a service dog. Tina's already explained exactly what that's all about. Look, we're out of time, but hopefully you've written all this information down, and come back and join us next month when we'll have another guest for you. Thank you.